I wanted to listen to this.
Pre-planned things.
Yeah, so that's fair. No, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying.
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking a question, right? I'm not saying that they knew anything.
Okay.
I'm actually saying that for some inexplicable reason, they missed this. And one of the reasons that Netanyahu is continuing to prosecute this war, in my opinion, is because he knows the day of reckoning for him is coming when it's over. Not just for allowing this to happen on his watch, but also for him personally with the corruption charges he's facing in a criminal courtroom. So there is no incentive for Netanyahu to end this. If anything, his popularity with a lot of, a lot of right-wing Israelis, that his popularity has risen with sections of Israeli community because of the constant warfare. But that in itself is an extremely unhealthy drug, right? So I'm not saying for a moment, as some conspiracy theories say, or Mossad knew anything. I'm not saying that for a moment. But what a spectacular dropping of the ball right on their doorstep. And it's inexplicable. They have to explain how they didn't know anything about the tunnel systems, or if they did, why they didn't realize what the plan was. There are literally people, it's a bit like when 9/11 happened. There were people working at the Pentagon who had one job, to think the unthinkable about terror attacks. All they had to do, right? What is that unthinkable? That if you knew Hamas were building tunnels, they must have done. 20 years they were building hundreds of miles of tunnels. If you knew they were building tunnels, that nobody thought, well, I wonder what they're planning, and tried to find out, because that's what Mossad are supposed to do. So I simply asked the question, how did you not know?
No, I think it's a very important question, obviously, and I'm sure it'll be asked in Israel when the war's over. And I think we just had Andrew Foxon here, who's a pro-Israel guy, saying this war should have ended a few months ago.
I think there's a growing sentiment.
I agree with you. I agree that there's a growing sentiment. But I also think that your point about 9/11 kind of makes the point that the intelligence operations, they only have to be wrong once, and then a great disaster happens, and we've seen them happen all over the place, and they do happen. So I don't think it's as unimaginable as you're saying. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, and it's just, we're exploring the arguments. Why you've used the phrase indiscriminate bombing repeatedly? Why do you say it's indiscriminate?
Well, I'll give an example. Say they get information there's one Hamas terrorist. Right? I saw Dave Smith use this analogy, so let me give him the credit for it. Somebody murdered one of your family, okay? Horrible hypothetical. Let's assume this has happened. And you get told that one of the people who was responsible is living in a tower block with 150 people in it. Do you think it's justified to go and blow up the whole tower block and kill 149 innocent people as you kill one person who is responsible for the loss you suffered?
There's a calculation in the laws of war where there has got to be some proportionality. There's got to be some taken into account.
Do you think there's been any proportionality now in Israel's response?
Well,
1,200 people got killed.
What I'm asking you
over the 7th. We're now up to maybe as many as 100,000.
But Piers, with all respect, that's a terrible argument. Because,
is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
That's a terrible argument.
I don't think it is.
It is, because way more Germans were killed at the end of World War II than British people were killed, and yet we bombed Germany into the ground because we were defeating them, right? I think that is a terrible argument, but I'm trying to find out why you say it's indiscriminate. Indiscriminate means they don't care if they're just bombing a civilian building, they're just trying to flatten Gaza. That's what you think is happening.
70% of Gaza has been flattened.
Yes.
In what way would you not think that suggests a degree of indiscriminate bombing?
The reason that people would challenge the idea of it being indiscriminate, for example, Andrew Fox, as I mentioned, who has a very nuanced view of this, as we found out, he was saying that when he was in Gaza, what he saw was that Hamas adapted their tactics as the war went on, and when they realized that the Israeli IDF was going house to house, they then did the evacuation themselves. They pulled the civilians out and then booby-trapped every single building. So the destruction of a lot of buildings is evidence of the fact that a lot of them are booby-trapped, and that's why they're being destroyed.
I'm sure some of them were.
He made the point that more bombs have been dropped on Gaza than the number of people who've been killed in Gaza, which kind of tells you that it's his argument, not indiscriminate. So that's the only reason I'm asking. And I'm just wondering.
I've read somewhere that 5-6 times as many bombs have been dropped in totality than the total power of the 2 nuclear bombs dropped in Japan. I mean, what is indiscriminate? To me, you can argue that indiscriminate means you don't care at all. I wouldn't go as far as that.
Okay.
I would say that the way they have gone about targeting sometimes individual members of Hamas that they believe are in a cafe and they just blow the whole cafe to pieces. That shows in my opinion, a reckless disregard for civilian life that is around that one person. And again, I come back to the Hezbollah thing. Why is it that they can target Hezbollah and dismantle Hezbollah in such a brilliantly sophisticated surgical strike manner, which does not involve destroying Lebanon or wiping out 100,000 Lebanese people, killing 20,000 Lebanese children? Why is it they're capable of that there, but they're completely incapable of any other war strategy here, when most people believe, who know Hamas, that this was all part of Hamas's plan, that they knew.
After watching this video, you can tell that Piers Morgan decided to go nuclear at Triggernometry podcast. He destroyed every pro-Palestine, pro-Israel talking point. And he said very well that if you can do it very well on Hezbollah, what is the big issue that you can't do on Hamas? Where is it that you can't target specific regions? And he also gave he quoted David Smith and said that if one Hamas is hiding at a hospital that has 150 patients, would you kill the 150 to kill the one person? And I noted that these guys, especially Constantine of Trigonometry podcast, had to deflect. And this is what I've noted with most pro-Israel guys. I don't understand what is the big issue when it comes to speaking the truth, that you have to deflect. Peace, human rights has nothing to do with it being discriminative. It's not subjective. There's no bias in this. If killing someone is wrong, it must belong to everyone. You cannot selectively say this is okay, this is not okay. And this is the problem that we are having with most guys. Because I have noted that sometimes mentioning these names have become a very big issue. But I want to know that what do you think about these guys? Because what I noted that is that some journalists wake up and said, "Oh, Piers Morgan lied." But the question is, the things he challenged, the things he mentioned on this podcast were things that even Trigonometry podcast hosts could not even defend themselves. They had to deflect. They had to mention about First World War, Second World War, people who died. We are not living in 1944 or 1939. We must accept that some behaviors, especially on this war that has been going on, are the biggest anti-Semitic thing has ever happened to Israel. And the majority of people today, even in the West, especially the young people, are questioning their government on support of Israel, especially to the matters we are seeing today. You cannot support G and expect that your citizen would support you. And what you are seeing is that you saw another day, pro-Palestine demonstration on Australia, more than 50,000 people on the street. This is a very telling sign that things are not the same, and whatever is happening, it's angering many people. And this is what Piers Morgan had to mention on this Trigonometry podcast. He mentioned that whatever is happening today and the double standard that the media is showing will destroy the image of Israel, and most people will question the sanity and the moral clarity of the pro-Israel movement and how the media has lied. And now let's imagine this. Habitat were sad when in history did we have more than 1,300 people dying or queuing for food in an aid camp? Tell me when you heard about that. Some things are very hard to defend because every pro-Israel guy will mention about October 7. But now we have an October 7 on an aid camp in Palestine where 1,300 people have died so far, and they are continuing to die every day, and you can't even question, because if you question, you are anti-Semitic. You want to tell me that now we have October 7 happening in an aid camp where people are looking for food and they are weak and children and they are being killed, and this is what is happening and we are going to be fixated on about October 7, but not the root cause of October 7. And 1,300 people dying, waiting for food, is not a big issue. But 1,300 who died on October 7 is a big issue. You know, we need to understand that if you are going to preach peace, let us preach peace to all. Let us ensure that there is sanity. Let us stop double standards, because this is the problem we are having on pro-Israel, where that we have people who have died so far in less than a month, going for food that is 1,300 people. But now, those do not matter. But those who died on October 7, minus the people who were killed because of by the army, because we understand that there were some who died on that day, but no one ever mentioned how many. And you want to tell us that you are the most moral army when you kill 1,300 people waiting for food. And when you questioned by someone like Piers Morgan, the guy on Triggernometry would just try to defend with lame points and try to distract and to deflect. I feel like this was a very good podcast, and one thing I'm sure is that I would agree is that Piers Morgan managed to destroy the pro-Israel movement in this podcast. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section, and remember to be respectful, and remember, this is just for educational purposes. Remember, peace to everyone, irrespective of their religion. Let's meet in the next video. I'm your host, James.